Hello, how are you? So FreeJam changed so they have a Discord server, and in that server they have a frequently asked questions channel, which previously had a bunch of information about the old Robocraft 2, and they updated it recently to have information about the Robocraft 2 rebuild. And because I don't want FreeJam to be able to live in the dark, I want to make sure other people who are not in the Robocraft Discord server, like myself, or in the Robocraft 2 Discord server, they're separate things. There's a Robocraft 1 and a Robocraft 2 I want to make sure people like me who are not in that server, and especially people who are not like me, who don't still keep tabs on it, actually know what FreeGem are doing. Because I know that a lot of people are probably excited about the rebuild because they think it'll be more like 2015 Robocraft. Um, and they probably want to know when FreeGem are doing things that they don't like. So let's start with this. Below are a number of frequently asked questions about Robocraft 2. This will be updated over time. I guess that goes without saying. So this video will probably become dated, I guess. I'm fine with that. Build a machine out of a variety of blocks, test drive your machine, and then bring it into explosive PvP and PvE combat. So Robocraft 2 before the rebuild was just PvP. There was, or player versus player. So there was some information that would suggest that FreeGem were considering starting to bring it more towards player versus everything. Is that what that stands for? Player versus everything? You know, like you fight AI basically. Uh, there's evidence to suggest that FreeGem were planning to bring Robocraft, even Robocraft 2, towards that. Pardon. I'm very stuttery right now. Robocraft 2 is the sequel of the studio's first ever game, and we're looking to develop the core gameplay from 2014 to 2015 era as a foundation. So, that's what they want it to be. It's FreeGem though, so probably what they think that is not what you think it is. Why are you posting this on both Robocraft 1 and Robocraft 2 spaces? So that's talking about how there were some announcements that hyped up the Robocraft 2 rebuild. Like, look at us, we're destroying the hopes and dreams of these players who trusted us, so that we can have you instead. I'm just being honest, that's what it really is. But I mean, they're also not wrong in saying this here, that we believe that since we're rebuilding Robocraft 2, form much closer to the OG, players from both groups would find the information relevant. That's true and respectable. I won't I won't be ridiculous and try and diss them for that. How will I play this rebuild? Via the Robocraft Steam page, which has been delisted for now. There will be an option to play early versions of the rebuild as it progresses in development. It will also be available via the Robocraft 2 website and launcher. So, yeah, as I said, currently it is delisted, so you can't find it. I'm guessing what they mean here is that they're going to undelist it, relist it, I guess, so that it is able to be played. But it also sounds like they're doing it as like an early version thing, so Robocraft 2 will still be the main thing. That doesn't make sense to me, because they have delisted Robocraft 2 probably because they don't want people to play it in its current state. But for them to have it as an option to play early versions of the rebuild, they would have to relist it and also have Robocraft 2, like the old one, as the main thing on the store page. Unless what they mean is it's going to stay delisted, and people who currently have access to the store page will be able to access it, and other people who did not get access to the store page because they didn't download the game will not be able to touch it. I don't know what they mean by that. Probably, I'm guessing the most reliable way that you'll be able to access this rebuild would be through the Robocraft 2 website. It seems messy, I'll be honest. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. Maybe they haven't figured out what they're actually going to do yet. I don't know. But then why make a FAQ about it? Why make a frequently asked questions about it if you don't know what you're going to do? Who knows? Do I have to build? Okay, so what this is about the CRF, because some people will really like this. The CRF is not going to be in the rebuild. So yes, building is a key part of your progression in Robocraft 2. Not the Robocraft 2 that they ditched though, that's something different. But I'm willing to bet they don't want you to remember that. When you begin to create your machine, it will be quite weak, but as you engage in combat, you'll earn resources and craft more blocks, and you'll learn new technology. Use what you've earned to improve the performance of your machine for more powerful enemies. So, I'm guessing when they say for more powerful enemies, they mean in both player versus player and player versus everything. So, and yeah, so I should clarify as well. What they mean when they say against more powerful enemies, they mean tiers. So there's going to be tiers in this game. They've shown concept art of them working on tiers. If that changes, then I guess they can fall back on the fact that they're frequently asked questions that, oh, we didn't actually... No, they can't. They can't. Who am I kidding? They're like clearly working on tiers. They're making that a main selling point for the fact that they're rebuilding the game. So there's going to be tiers. There's not going to be a CRF, or Community Robot Factory is what it stands for. And also it's I do want to say, if you like the idea of there not being a CRF, if you think the CRF is dumb and stupid and it ruins the point of the game, good on you. But there is an unavoidable problem with that, which is that the CRF is good for players who don't have a lot of time to build, or they have more difficulty getting into the game, because when you get to play with someone else's things that they've built, that also allows you to learn how to build those things better. Because you can try like shooting at it in test mode, or you can see how it breaks, or you can kind of understand what the standard that you're working towards is. And that just won't be possible. So it's going to be an onboarding issue, and I don't think the fact that the building is going to be different and you place block by block instead of scaling them, I don't think that's going to make it better. In fact, it could make it worse, specifically because if it works like it did in Robocraft 1, but to be clear, I will disclose, I was a 2015 player. I started playing in 2015, maybe even 2014. I don't quite remember, but I was there for the introduction of the medic gun, the nano. What was it? How have I forgotten this? Was it just nano beam, or was it just nanos? I am terrible with names. But I was there for that being introduced. I saw it get really overpowered, and then tuned back a bit, and then I saw the beam getting removed, which sucked. I was there for all of that. If you were there for 2015, that doesn't mean that you're a 2015 stan. Okay, I want that to be abundantly clear. A lot of the people who were fans of Robocraft 2 before the rebuild, they played during 2015. They're not ignorant to the fact that 2015 existed and was a game that to some people was fun. Sorry, moving on from that tangent. Yeah, so there'll probably be no CRF. That's probably going to be a problem. Block by block placement might not actually help, especially if it works like it did in Robocraft in 2015, then probably if you get more CPU as you get in higher tiers, then you have more blocks to place. So instead of it being good for onboarding, you're just spamming click a lot, or like if there's damage routing, you have to be very like meticulous with how you place the thousands of blocks you're placing to build your Robocraft. It's not really more accessible. It's it's better for like introducing people to the concept, because it's like if you start with small machines and you're clicking like one block, placing one block down at a time in a very small scale, that can be better, because I mean it's you click and the thing happens and there's a thing there now. But that's not really how Robocraft in 2015 works, and people want Robocraft in 2015. Will there be player versus player? Yes, game modes like elimination with OG team sizes. They can do that because they're sacrificing joints. They are removing joints. There will not be custom turrets. There will not be rotating platforms. And that's so that you can have the OG team sizes, and also so that they can avoid some potential physics issues, because when you can move individual joints, sometimes players figure out ways to make they figure out ways to exploit the physics engine, which FreeJam can't really control because they can't build a physics engine from the ground up. That's ridiculous. No, I don't think any game studio other than like stupid rich ones are able to do that. Especially not an indie studio. But point is, uh, joints, rotating platforms, custom gun rigs, whatever you want to call it, they are delete. They are gone, and that is so that you can have elimination at OG team sizes or original team sizes. If that rubs you the wrong way, then don't play it. That's really all I can say. Don't play it, because FreeJam will disappoint you again if that's you. They will. Um, Player versus everything. We plan to introduce player versus everything game modes that will allow players to learn the building system and create unorthodox robots that are not often suited for pure competitive combat. This is an onboarding thing, because player versus player in the original Robocraft 2, the one that I liked, got very sweaty very fast, and I think that's because Robocraft, like the first one, had built up a reputation of being quite sweaty, so when Robocraft 2 was announced, people would then build it, like play it and build with it in a way which is sweaty, because they grew to like that player versus player element. And I mean, there's also another aspect to it, which is that player versus player games, like PvP games these days, are often very sweaty. I know a lot of people hate the esports craze, and there is kind of an indirect effect going on where, because esports exists, people who are not esports champions, they want to play more with competitiveness in mind. It's not a thing where people who like to play competitively want to be esports champions, and it's not a thing where, well, sometimes that happens. I should be clear. Sometimes there is someone who is an absolute crazy person who thinks that they are going to be the next esports champion for like an obscure game nobody cares about. But by and large, that is not the case for most people. Most people just like to play with a bit of competitive spirit, and so they like be sweaty as hell and they exploit the game. I was one of those people for Robocraft 2, and I liked it. It's going to happen to the Robocraft 2 rebuild as well. You can't control it. People like to play games certain ways, so they play those games those ways. But the reason why they're doing player versus everything, or PvE, is because they want to have like a way to bring people into the game easier. Splatoon did that. I'm sure many other games did that. I think Team Fortress 2 did it with robots, but Splatoon did it with story modes and Salmon Run. So there is precedent for other games doing that. If you don't like it, I don't know. I mean, okay, I should cover this. So there's some people who won't like the idea that there's player versus everything because they know that that's not actually the full story. Because Free Jam also want to have AI in regular matches. Um, that's a really tricky thing to talk about. And the reason why is because a lot of people don't want to play player versus player against AI, which is fair. That, yeah, I can understand that and I can empathize with it. The problem is that when you're playing an indie game which does not have the same player traffic as a bigger game, you that's not always a realistic expectation because sometimes you just don't have enough players. That's the really sucky hard truth about it. So FreeJam are hoping to mitigate that by using AI in player versus player as well, and I they're not saying that here, but some people will be frustrated with the idea that this says player versus everything because actually that also means that there will be AI in PvP matches, and FreeJam isn't being clear about that here, but that is going to probably be a thing. But also that looks like they're doing like a Warframe situation. See, some of the locations will be difficult party-only PvE missions, which only top-level players working together may be able to overcome. I'm on the fence about this. I mean, on paper I really like the idea. I don't really, first of all, I don't really care about any of this, like the Robocraft 2 rebuild, because I'm not interested in the Robocraft 1 building system at all. I don't care about it. I do not feel strongly about it. I think it's confusing at worst, and a little bit easier to understand at best. But um, yeah, I don't. I mean, player versus everything. That's fine, I guess. In my opinion, it's. I don't think it's a really like a huge problem on its own. Like because people are really upset with AI with it being player versus player battles. I don't think they probably should care about PvE having AI like, or I should say PvE existing just because it's AI and we're apparently so incapable of understanding nuance that we draw the line at any AI in our PvP game at all when the whole point is that there's PvP, like PvE game modes. I don't know. That seems silly to me, but anyway. On to the next things. The Vanguard. There is a door within the garage bay which is currently locked. They're saying that about their like demo build that they have that nobody else can access because they're still working on it, to be clear. In time this will, sorry, pardon me. In time this will open and players will be able to explore a large mothership called the Vanguard and meet other players akin to a character hub. I don't trust that. Um, will they be able to do it? I mean, it it'll basically just be like a player hub, like not even probably not even like VR chat style, where you just control a character and walk around, and you can see other people's characters. If they're working on Robocraft with PvP, they can probably do that. But also, I'll be honest, this seems kind of like a waste of time. It really does seem like a waste of goddamn time. And also, like, when I first read FreeJam planning to do this, because they made a Steam post about this as well, a lot of people were like, yay, that sounds cool, we can meet up with our friends on the Vanguard and then go fight with our Robocrafts on all the planets. But it seems kind of, like, I know I just said they'll be able to do it, but it also seems kind of ambitious, because they only have so much time and so many resources to work on things in this game. And they're going to be spending some of that on a multiplayer hub which is completely unrelated to the rest of the game. Because they haven't said anything about this, but it seems like they're leaving themselves open, based on the Discord screenshots that I've seen and how people talk about it, they're leaving it open to the idea that you might not be able to get out of your pilot seat in battles. It might just be full Robocraft 2015 style. You have a Robocraft, you have a pilot seat. There will probably still be a pilot seat. If you like that, you can be happy about that at least. But you probably won't be able to get out of your Robocraft like you were able to in Robocraft 2. So this really does seem like it'll just be tacked on for some reason. Well, we'll see why later on, because there is probably a reason, and I think I know what it is. But tank tracks, they'll be modular. They will be modular as we have previously proposed in the first game, the first Robocraft 2 game, which you ditched. We will release wheel and lasers first, and add progression, tech tree, etc. And then since we have completed the majority of the development on tank tracks in the game that they are ditching, we will be able to ensure that they are made to work within the new block by block building system, and will then release them. So it sounds like they're going to do tank tracks as one of the first. I shouldn't say one of the first, because they're going to do wheel and lasers first, but after that, one of the first new movement parts to release. Which, I should probably be clear, judging by how long this is already taking to rebuild this game, is probably going to happen like a long time from now. Because I would imagine that the game is probably going to become first available like mid this year, like mid 2024. Yeah, 2020. Wow, I'm still living in 2023. But it's probably going to be available by the earliest, like mid 2024. So tank tracks could happen like literally next year, like 2025. So we really, and keep in mind as well, tank tracks were going to be released in Robocraft 2, the original one, literally within a month or two. So if you just wanted Robocraft 2 to have more content, screw you, I guess. Too bad, because we have to rebuild the game for some reason. You would have gotten more content faster, and it would have been better made if they had just stuck with Robocraft 2. That's a fact. You can't avoid it. You can't say, "Oh, actually, Robocraft 2 was bad," because the thing is, it would have been better if they were given time to work. Well, if they'd given themselves time to work on it more. They could have made it better, but now they're ditching it, so it can't be better now, and now you have to live with having just wheels and lasers. Not even, that's some fine print I just noticed. So in Robocraft 2, the original, they had wheels, lasers, and plasma, as well as joints and logic and all of this other stuff. There was actually a lot of content in that game. Now you get to just have wheel and laser, and then later you will get tank tracks, and maybe plasma. So if you just wanted more content, you have lost. You are with the rest of us. You are in the gutter. Free Jam don't care. You are with the rest of us. You have lost. Many of these will be rebuilt to work in a way that is closer to OG. So this is about anti-gravity, thrusters, hovers, plasma, rail, so on. Rail was different in Robocraft to the original. It was a heavy weapon, but it wasn't really like the Mega Rail at all. It's a whole can of worms. I can explain that some other time. I'm already almost at the 30-minute mark, so I need to get this moving. There won't be any gravity modules. So any gravity modules were like helium, but you could turn it on and off. Some people thought this was ridiculous and OP. It's kind of complicated. It was kind of strong because, I mean, it's helium, you can turn on and off, but it was also able to be balanced because FreeJam had made it so that your weight mattered a lot, which meant that they could make it so that you actually could not fly well if you were heavy enough. So, and because weight was affecting how much health you could have, a lot of flyers were basically, you could get hit 3 times by lasers, like stray laser fire. You get hit 3 times, and then after that, 1 more time, and you're out. So, flyers in Robocraft 2 were not busted. They were not overpowered. FreeJam had pretty much made them balanced. Kind of. It depends on how asymmetrical you like your game to be. Some people still felt like flyers were too asymmetrical, they were too problematic, and that they were not developed well. I think they were developed better than Robocraft 1, and that's enough for me. But here they plan to reintroduce wings and rotors and so on in the way that they were in Robocraft during 2015. I should say that was going to be the case in Robocraft 2 anyway. They're not like appealing to you by going, oh, we've fixed it, we've fixed wings and no, that was already going to be the case in Robocraft 2. They were not planning to do what fans called like the car wings, where it just behaves like a car in the air, or not even a car, like a hovercraft for some reason. They weren't going to do that in Robocraft 2. They were never going to do that. They were always going to use the wings from 2015 to make flies that were more complex than what Robocraft 2 players called potatoes, but they were kind of like helium drones, basically, or blimps, just like really fast ones. No, they were going to do that anyway. They're not appealing to you by saying that they'll work like that. They always were going to work like that. And now you'll actually get them later, probably, because they're rebuilding the whole game. Will there be paid for loot crates? Okay, this is the reason why I made this video. No. So, I should say before I continue. In the old frequently asked questions for the original Robocraft 2, it said, will there be paid for loot crates? And then it just said no, and nothing else. The community joked about how, they kind of like playfully joked, so when's that going to be edited? Well, here you are. No, we will not sell loot crates for any real world currency. We may introduce chests in the PvE world where you'll get a chance to obtain RNG loot. There will not be purchasable loot crates. So, if the reason why you don't like loot crates is because it's predatory practice, because it's basically gambling, that should be fine with you. Lots of games have RNG loot. That's not a big deal if you specifically do not like the gambly thing and think that's icky. I have seen, though, a lot of Robocraft 2015 fans, or players, they're not really fans, are they? They really hate FreeJam. But, you know, I'm talking to you, right? If you don't like loot crates because it's random loot, and I know there's a lot of you that feel that way, you really hate the random loot part. Well, FreeJam just said here, we may introduce chests into the PvE world where you will get a chance to obtain RNG loot. Now, to be fair, that could just mean the PvE world, right? There's nothing saying it'll be in PvP, and since the PvE world is not made for you, it's made for people who are not you, and you want to just play the PvP, maybe that's fine. Maybe you don't care about that. I think that's fair, but if you're one of these people who have a really absolute mindset, and you do not like RNG loot at all, and you actually played Robocraft in 2015 because it was one of those games that didn't have that, and you're constantly mad that PvP games in the modern day frequently do RNG loot and gacha and all of these other things, well, would you look at that? FreeJam still disagree with you. If you don't like that, again, don't play it. How will Robocraft 2 make money if it is free to play? We are committed to no pay to win ever. I believe that. FreeJam have been consistent with that for quite a while now. And again, to the extent of like not wanting to do paid loot crates, because they now think that that is too pay to win and too exploitative and so on. So they will commit to no pay to win ever. Some people think that Robocraft 2, the original, was pay to win. It wasn't. It was just badly presented because there was a battle pass which had weapons on it, which made it look like it was pay to win, but those weapons were actually only cosmetic skins. You could get all of that stuff without paying a single cent, and it wasn't even grindy. You could get it within like a day or two. And in the later versions of the game, they actually even disabled the tech ladder, which was the main progression system, so you actually got all of the weapons instantly anyway. So Robocraft 2 was absolutely not pay to win, ever. It was never that. That is entirely misinformation. So that's not really new information, this. This is new information, though. We are planning to offer premium as a means of allowing bonus on rewards as well as some other benefits that were part of the OG. So Robocraft 2 did not used to have that. It had a battle pass basically, but it was a very, very lenient battle pass. You could pay for it once, and as long as you played enough to, because they had Galaxy Cash as things you could unlock in the Battle Matrix, which is basically the Battle Pass, and they would specifically have enough, and deliberately have enough Galaxy Cash in that for you to buy the next one. So you could pay for it once, which is like $12 or less if you're in the United States, and just keep recycling it over and over again. So FreeGam's policy on microtransactions is actually incredibly lenient and always has been. Will there be a Mac/Linux version? We'd like to support these platforms, but will come at a later date. Robocraft 2 also pretty much was in this situation where they could not support Linux. And were planning to, but they didn't end up doing it because they ended up delisting the game before that point. Again, I want to get across just how unstable this project is. It is on the backs of many projects which have been ditched and rebuilt before it. So I'd really like to stress, if you are excited about this, please don't be. Don't let yourself down. Anything could happen, and that includes bad things. How do I change my name? I don't need to go into that. Will Robocraft 2 be released on consoles? So the answer to this is yes, but that's only if it doesn't get cancelled before then. It was the same thing with Robocraft 2. They actually had it built up so that they would eventually be able to release it for consoles, but in the meantime, they weren't doing it yet because they had other priorities. Don't expect a console release shortly after Robocraft 2, the rebuild. I really don't like calling it that, because it's not Robocraft 2 to me, but do not expect the console launch to be soon after the PC launch. It won't be. It will probably be years if the game survives that long, which I don't think it will, but that's just my opinion. Okay, this will also be interesting to you. Why doesn't FreeGame work with old Robocraft 1 code? It is very old code, which got quite messy, and with many years of development history built using fairly old paradigms for the way you should construct large software projects. It also relied on client-side physics, which was easily hacked and was very difficult to provide open source, provide good open-world persistent PvE gameplay in. It used an old physics engine, a very old version of Unity, and worked with a very old third-party backend API that wasn't very good. We do still have the code. It wasn't burnt in a fire. That was the backend data for Robocraft 1, which was backed up and restored to new servers after the fire, but it is faster for us to get to a better game which can support persistent servers with extremely hard to hack PvE and PvP gameplay with the new technology than it would be from the old. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, I had to ask about this in a Robocraft 1 clan server, uh, I forgot the name of you already. Sorry, again, I'm bad with names. But thank you. If you want to plug in the comments, I will pin or by the very least favorite your comment. Or if you want to say, this was me that told you this, please do. Uh, but I did have to ask about this because I heard that the code was burnt in a fire, or at least something was lost in the fire. Here they're saying it was the backend data and that it was restored to new servers. So for me, and for probably a lot of you, you're looking at this and thinking, wait, what did they lose in the fire then? um, I'm going entirely off of memory from what this person told me. But um, I'm pretty sure it was nothing was lost in the fire, pretty much. Basically, they um, had at some point lost the API, basically, to continue working on the game. And it's not clear, to me at least, whether or not they lost the API in the fire or if they lost it through it just getting old, which can happen. But they can't work on Robocraft 1 anymore because it's not practical, not because it's impossible. That's the main takeaway. FreeJam are really bad at explaining things. They did not explain this well. They basically just danced around the point for no reason. They do that a lot. Get used to it. But uh, they do kind of explain here that it is faster for them to get a better game up and working than to support the old Robocraft from 2015. Which is a logical explanation. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I don't really care for Robocraft 2015 very much, but um, if you do, I guess you probably shouldn't take this as FreeJam lying to you. Unless they said something that very specifically contradicted this. But probably what actually happened, if that did happen, is they communicated it poorly. They do that a lot. And I say this as someone who, it pains me to say, but who was in somewhat of a communicative place with the developers at FreeJam. They miscommunicate a lot. They don't generally know how to communicate with a fandom. And that isn't really unusual for an indie game studio either, because often these people are in the areas that they're in because they don't want to talk to people. There's a bit of a like thing with that. Like I don't know if it's still the case, but it probably will be for quite a few people who are still in the industry, because it was the case only a decade or two ago. A lot of people who are in IT and who are making games and people who make digital art and so on, a lot of them are not great communicators because they got into their line of work actually trying to avoid that, or their line of work, it's just very common for you to not be good at that. And the thing that's happening in the modern day is that community support and um, customer support are getting so prevalent and so important that a lot of people can't keep up with that. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Really, it's as simple as FreeJam are not good at communicating. They probably screwed up if you thought that it was something important was burnt in a fire, because apparently it wasn't. I didn't know that. Hopefully you know that now too. Okay, so this is the last part, basically, and to me this is a bit of a slap in the face. We released a version of Robocraft 2 which featured some founders content and other cosmetic rewards. We aim to ensure that many of these are retained and still exist in the rebuild. Those who spent money on this version can request a refund via Steam or our customer support. So, what they've basically done here is they've said, okay, here's some things that you should know about old Robocraft 2. And then they just basically go, you can get a refund, or you can get 3 times the value of money that you spent. Which is cold comfort if you actually liked that game. It's mostly a statement for people who like anything that FreeGem do. If you like specific games or specific content or specific concepts, FreeGem won't talk to you. They won't. They have shut themselves off. They should be clear, they read the Discord forums. They have said many times they do. They wouldn't lie about something like that. That would be silly. But they will not talk to you. They won't. That might change in the future, maybe even soon. But I think it also probably has an equal chance of not changing anytime soon, because it seems pretty clear that FreeGem are also changing their approach to how they engage with the community. And a part of that is probably talking less, because a lot of people in Robocraft 2 who were fans of that game were really communicative with FreeGem, and FreeGem was really communicative with them. And understandably, they felt incredibly betrayed when FreeGem, out of nowhere, without saying anything, ditched the game that they liked. Because it was getting reviewed poorly by people who don't play it, don't care about it, and probably just wanted Robocraft from 2015 and would not positively review anything else. I'm not saying that's everyone who left a Steam review that was negative for this game. There was a lot of good critique in there, but a lot of it was that. And you can't deny that. That would be disingenuous to say that's not the case. So, yeah, that's icky. That's gross. I would prefer if they'd just stop talking about old Robocraft 2 if they're so set on pretending it didn't exist. Again, they're saying old Robocraft 2, nothing else there. It's not, what if I spent money on old Robocraft 2? They're just saying, you can get a refund or you can get 3 times the value. We hope that's enough to ease your mind. What on earth are they thinking? I guess, and this is the thing I always have to grapple with this as well, is that I could be the last of my kind. I mean, a lot of the other people who liked Robocraft 2, they aren't talking about it anymore, and for good reason. I'm not even really interested in it anymore. I miss playing it regularly still. I'm completely off of Robocraft 2 and Robocraft in general now. I am playing Splatoon instead because it's a better game. I will say it up front, it is a better game, at least for me. Especially when FreeGem refused to work on their own games further and improve them. So I don't really care about this stuff anymore. I care about it. Obviously, I'm making a video about it, but it's like the difference between telling someone which you they're like an acquaintance but not really your friend. You're warning them about your ex. I care about it in that way. I'm like keeping an eye on my psychopathic ex who wants to rope people into her shit. I do not want to be with her again. I do not want to be with FreeGem again. I am fed up with this shit. Since I've dropped the S-bomb already. Yeah. I mean, if any of that was important to you, if you cared about any of the things I talked about just now, uh, good. I am so pleased to help you. FreeGem is not the clearest about what they're doing at anything, at any time. And so if I helped you realize that you don't want to play this game, or even that you think this game is actually going to be for you, good. I will warn, if you are excited about this still, be very careful and skeptical unless you do not get passionate about games whatsoever and you just want to like play it and then not care about it when it gets cancelled. If that's you, fine. I don't understand you. I really don't, but fine. If you get passionate about games and you want to be excited about this, probably take a step back and think about what you're actually getting excited about and who's making it, because I don't want you to feel how I felt, man. I just don't. I want people to be happy. I really do. I It matters to me so much that people do not get upset and broken by these kinds of things. My heart bleeds for the 2015 people as much as I don't get you. I feel sorry for you, and I feel sorry that I'm now someone who's like you, even though my situation is probably a bit rougher because no one will remember this version of this game ever. I mean, that's just how it is. I can't sugarcoat it. I kind of have it rough, if I'm being honest. That was all. This got very long. Maybe, hopefully you were able to listen to it as kind of like a podcast thing. I mean, pretty shit podcast, but oh well. Have a good day. And don't let this shit get to you. I'm doing this literally, like, I know this took almost an hour, but this is just some random thing I decided to do randomly. I did not put effort into this. Don't put effort into any of this yourself. I would warn. Just don't. It's not worth your time.